Okay, this going on with tendernism has been getting all around the internet. So before I give my take and my opinion, which I know is going to be unpopular, I need to get some disclaimers out. Number one, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't believe any one race of people is inherently evil. Okay? So I have no hate in my heart for anybody based on the color of their skin because that's just not how I roll. I also fully believe that you can't go change and modify history just because it fits your feelings of how you think the world should be now. In other words, we have to call things out even when they're not unpopular, and even when we know it's going to come with some dialogue that we're not comfortable with. Welcome to life. That is what life is. Life is just going to life. Okay. So that's my thing. Also, don't come on my page using it as an excuse to dislike certain people because I don't tolerate that. Yet, I will say at the same time, I do understand people's legitimate complaints and grievances and concerns about the past because a lot of the past still is applicable today. So we can't pretend that. That's my disclaimer. So I want you all to know now that I've given that, okay? I would see Tendernism, and I didn't know that that was his nickname. And he would talk about the barbecue spot and his oxtails he called black diamonds. I'm gonna be brutally honest with y'all. The way he made them videos, I thought the black man was the one who owned the barbecue place. But then it started to feel really off to me, and I just couldn't put my finger on it until a lot of you all made video clips discussing it. And then this copyright issue came up, and then I was like, okay, this just confirms that I'm happy that I quit watching the videos within a short amount of time because something just was off about that whole dynamic and I just couldn't figure it out. For each of these men, I saw a clip on Hype TV that greatly disturbed me, okay? First was the clip of the guy who took his copyright sitting next to Tendernism, saying this guy didn't have nothing before all of this started. And I could feel my blood boil when he said that, define nothing and what do you mean? Because up to that point, I wasn't going to make a video. Still, his comment ticked me off, but I still wasn't going to make a video about it. What you mean this man had nothing, so he should be fortunate to take the crumbs off of your table? So I watched it on the morning of 21 January 2026 when I was doing this because I'm home with a massive migraine. And so at that time I'm watching it and I can't believe he had the nerve to say that, not understanding the historical context of his words. What disturbed me later on is the MLK Day short done by Mr. Tendernism himself. Doing the all people are equal, all people. That MLK non-violent mindset. That is what prompted this video. So I'm going to address each man. And before I do, that's my second and last disclaimer. I can neither prove nor disprove that the owner of that shop is a racist and did this with racist intention. Therefore, I'm not going to come and all and out call this man a racist because I don't know his heart and I don't know. And understand, I'm not doing that from the standpoint of ticking you all off. Nor am I giving him the benefit of the doubt because for the most part, I think that situation is off. And racism could play a role, but there's no way for me to prove that. I'm just simply here to use an example, and I'm going to start with him first, to talk about something that has historically bothered us for a while. I will address Mr. Tendernism next with the pacifist nonviolence and why the stance he took and how he executed it in that video was not the best way to respond to the backlash, in my opinion. So without further ado, we're going to start with why the owner's comments were problematic. Then we'll start with the MLK Day clip from Mr. Tendernism and why that was problematic. So let's take a trip to California. All right. So the images are popping up by now. You see this, you understand what this is from a physical standpoint. When you look at this image, do you really understand it from a mindset standpoint? The mindset of what we were told to accept as a people in this country. See, this is what the owner of that shop has done that's problematic. The idyllic plantation. Now you'll say I'm overreaching. Just hear me out on this one. Back before there were photographers and things like that, when you needed to use psychological themes to keep people in their place, you did so through paintings. Because paintings had to be commissioned, they were expensive, they were a representation of wealth. Because unlike a photo that can come out within seconds these days, those works of art, and we're putting that in quotations because this is not so much art as it is propaganda in watercolor, okay, could take months to years to create. I would look at these paintings for years and I didn't like the themes of it, but I just felt like it was just plantation owners showing off. No, it was the psychological aspect of what these paintings mean. You see, the idyllic plantation wasn't just about watching slave behavior and mixing it in behind a background of plantations, of sprawling lands and beautiful landscapes. It was about telling you to accept the crumbs on the table and that the slaves didn't hate their condition as much as some might believe, because believe it or not, there were even abolitionists in this time saying that this was a moral wrong and that this practice should end. How would you counteract that? Do a painting showing people dancing around fires, coming together, building community, and having, in quotations, a good time, okay? In reality, being whipped is not a good time, okay? Having some of your own people run back and tell the master what you were doing was not a good time, okay? And if y'all want to, you can pause this and read what it means. It was a romanticized view of chattel slavery that has no basis in reality. The general theme of that is accept the little bit that we give you, because that's better than what you do have, which is really nothing. Because on that plantation, you really owned or had nothing. You were the subject of people. This is why you couldn't marry as you pleased. You couldn't raise your children as you pleased. Because that child born by default was born a slave to that plantation and therefore was going to play the role that the master felt that slave should pay. But I want you to use this in the mindset of that store owner. And see, this was the first thing that came to mind, idyllic plantation. When he sat there with Ankh sitting right next to him and said, "This man had nothing before I came along." I'm not saying that he purposefully is a continuation of this idyllic plantation, but idyllic plantation from the modern standpoint is more of mental bondage than physical bondage, and I hope that makes sense to y'all. Like, he should be thankful that he was able to be the spokesperson of this restaurant and he had nothing. And for Ankh to sit there and just shake his head, I'm like, okay, this seems pre-planned, but I can't prove this. The comments made me mad. The reason this fits into the idyllic plantation, because it fits into a mindset of, yes, I can take this from you because you were nobody before the internet knew who you were. When it's seemingly and blatantly obvious that people only watch those videos most of the time or ate at that place because they liked the Tendernism brand and they liked Ankh. Ankh is that old grandpa we all like that can cook and will tell you stories. And so when you tell someone of FBA, ADOS, or African American descent, because we are all the same, that we had nothing before you, you imply that we are still in downtrodden circumstances. And while I'm proud of the FBAs that came out and the ADOS and the African Americans speaking on this, on his behalf, this is why this is just as much Ankh's fault as it is this man. He, by making that comment, continued the idyllic plantation, because from a physical standpoint, depending on who you talk to and at what angle, this may or may not exist anymore. But from a mental standpoint, it is 100% still the fabric of our society. You need to take the crumbs that we give you off the table and be happy with what little you have. This is why I'm proud that FBAs, ADOS, and African Americans have not been out in these streets in large numbers like we used to, protesting things. Simply because we were helping groups that as soon as they got what they want, they thought we should still stay beneath them and accept crumbs. So don't think that one group is participating in it. Hardly. It's many groups. So if you're looking at the idyllic plantation from a mentality standpoint, when that man said he had nothing, that is what they thought of those slaves who they had dancing in these paintings, because that was the quickest and best way to spread propaganda, because news did not spread as fast back in those days. Oh, they're happy with having less. They're happy with us taking this from them, because ain't no way somebody of that, again, quotations, low caliber can have or accept anything above themselves. That is why idyllic plantation ticked us off. Now, let me get to why I feel like some of this is Ankh's fault. We have our leaders, right? But we should still be able to critique them and go after the negative aspects of them. Some of you are even going to come after me for this video, and so long as you do it in a classy way, I don't mind, because you have every right to do so. I think we can have this conversation now. MLK's complete stance on nonviolence has screwed us as a people, and let me explain why. See, when Ankh got on camera and he kept emphasizing all people are created equal, all, several things bothered me. Number one, he was alive when MLK, at the same time that MLK was, looking at the age that he was. So at that stage of development and being young and impressionable, He fully fell hook, line, and sinker for the ideal that you choose non-violence at all times, which is not humanly realistic. And let me say this, I don't condone going to be violent at all for violence sake. What MLK, I think, should have said is that you take a stance of violence on a case by case basis, because until you're in that situation you don't know if you can be fully non-violent. There's no way that anyone can say I'm going to practice this and stick to that when the situation switches up. You won't know until you're in that what you are and aren't supposed to be. Now, some people are using symbology. Unc got out of a brand new white car. Did they buy him a car just to keep his mouth closed? Possibly. Okay. The problem I have with Unc is that, for starters, he grew up with an understanding of, like we all do, that black people's intellectual property throughout history was taken in this country. Yes, we know all people are created equal, just like all people, according to, we all know that all people are created equal, okay? Just like we know all people of that particular race, which is white people, are not racist. But we also know in reality that throughout history, a whole lot of people in this country of another race, which is us, have had their inventions stolen, had their intellectual property stolen. But here's one thing that I think is going to tick off ADOS people. Ageism is a real thing out here. We live in a society that does not have sympathy for old people. Even on your idyllic plantation, in that mindset, when a slave was older, they were nothing more than a burden to the master because they were no longer making them money. Because you can only do so much once you've gotten older, right? So, Tara, what are you saying with all this? He got on that camera using MLK as all people are created equal because Ankh seems to embody MLK's full philosophy of nonviolence. Now, don't go and touch my employer. Now, he's the reason that I got what I got. Now, as hurtful as this question sounds, is it possible that Unc went to his own people trying to seek legitimate help and employment, and they didn't help, and this restaurant owner did? Therefore, he feels a debt of gratitude in a country where ageism doesn't allow him other opportunities. Now, that was a long-winded and long and question, but we attack this man, and that's easy for us to say, because we're not living his circumstances. But I can understand how FBA ADOS African American people are looking at this, but like, wait a minute, man. You're old enough and still have cognitive memory to understand that us having our historical property taken has been hundreds of years. This ain't something that just happened in the 20th and 21st centuries. You are in a long line of people who have given up your autonomy and have given up something that can potentially cost you, make you more, and leave a legacy for less. People went to that restaurant because of you. I say that to say this. I believe Ankh took the non-violent position and did that MLK speech of his own free will. I believe he's protecting this man because he's convinced himself that he's not out to get him again, or he didn't do it on purpose. Again, it's giving jealousy to me from the part of that owner. And I can't say it's because he's a covert or overt racist. I don't know that, so I'm not going to make that assumption. It's giving jealousy to me. But for an aging black man in a society where he does not get a lot of opportunities, because ageism affects all races, but it disproportionately affects black men more than anyone, He's sticking with what he knows. He cannot leave the mentality of the idyllic plantation and the non-violence associated with that, because either he thought his own people weren't going to help him, or because this was the only person who gave him a chance. It looks to me like he's in that position because that's where he wants to be. And that's going to cost me some subs, and I understand that. So that's what I wanted to get at with this message with y'all. I think he made the choice to stay there. I don't think he was coaxed into that MLK speech. I'm not making anything out of a black man stepping out of a white car symbology, though I get why some people came to that conclusion. I've even seen some FBA ADOS African American people say it looked like that man wants to be where he wants to be. That's the hardest part of our history. Some people don't want to leave the plantation, neither physically nor mentally. And we see that with people like Bojangles and Spencer Williams Jr. and Alvin Childress, and amongst other things, the other people throughout history who have continued to be a replete stereotype in films. Unc is just in a long list of people who are willing to give up something to keep something else, even if keeping that something else is lesser than what they're not willing to fight for. He comes from that MLK pacifist nonviolent generation where he wants to fully live out that equality, even when that equality is not in his best interest. But I would also say, because we have an ageist United States that prizes beauty over age, he likely felt like this was the best choice for him, despite whoever's feelings it may hurt. And if that's the case, right now I'm making a reach, I'm not sure. I can understand why he did it. I, being a person who's applying for a trademark for my business name right now, at best can be apathetic about it. I can't have sympathy for it. Because while he lived pacifist nonviolence, at the same time he has his cognitive abilities and he's old enough to know better. And in an age where people can go raise GoFundMes for him, he went from that analog to digital age where he has more outreach and more opportunities. Me personally, I've known for a while when I quit watching the videos that I was never going to eat at that restaurant, because looking at it from a historical context, I knew what it was. The fact of the matter is, he is content with what he's given. He is still mentally on that idyllic plantation. That's going to make some people mad, but go look that up. Some people will say that's not what that means, but it does. The idyllic plantation was as much about psychologically keeping you in your place so that you accept less mentally, as much as it was physically keeping you locked down in a spot to where you never want to leave. I'm going to pray for him. I wish him the best. Tell me what y'all think. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.